Welcome back to another GM Facepalm episode. Today we're going to bring you endless options, perhaps endless frustrations, as we do a review of Hell's Rebels, Adventure Path from Paizo. Today, Hell's Rebels. A little different, if you prefer a City-Scape adventure. Definitely different from doing Iron Gods. Finishing that up, having completed that. And the group voted on this. So, finished book 1 just a few short weeks ago and on to book 2. But anyway, the collective thoughts are here as we kind of delve into reviewing book 1, Hell's Bright Shadow. What's really cool about this, a lot of city exploration here, meandering through the avenues of interests within the streets of Kintargo. All the while receiving proclamations from Thrune, the new Lord Mayor who's taken control, and mysteries, rumors that coalesce around the disappearance of the previous Lord Mayor, having fled or whatever. But there's lots of rumors, lots of riots, the Night of Ashes. You can build up to this adventure path with a prologue, maybe leading up to Thrune stepping in, and the night of fires and chaos and bloodshed that erupts from it, as a order is established. So, really cool. A lot of people are going to probably be put off by this because of the evil, horrible word that no one likes to even mention. Subsystems. This happens to have one, known as the Rebellion Sheet with Rebellion rules. I was fortunate enough that my group, they were willing to give it a try. So, it worked out. They were willing to read it. Some of them were kind of late to sort of get to it, to try and understand it. Thankfully, a few people stepped up and kind of helped everyone else, just to kind of carry the banner there, just to read some that may have looked like it would have been a little too intensive as far as rules go. When usually there's a fever to, there's a fury to, create your character and just be completely absorbed in that, but then having to take time to read about rebellion rules when the rebellion hasn't really happened yet. But maybe that kind of helps set the rebellion theme into the players, the heart, the fire within them to rebel against the government here. It wasn't that hard of a read. I eventually got into it and read up on it. I created the Excel sheet for the Rebellion sheet so that everyone can kind of use that. But it's pretty cool. You get a free feat, free skill out of that. Some other free little goodies from that. So it's worth the read. It's not that hard to understand. I was able to pick it up quite easily. Normally, I tend to pass out reading too much rules, and that seems kind of strange coming from me because I make the races, and those are pretty rules heavy. A lot of crunch there, where typically people don't think I'm much of a guy who deals with the fluff. But definitely I try to bring that out with stories, generating my own NPCs with their own backgrounds, and adding distinctive voices and flair for imagination to kind of ping-pong off of different people. So I try to generate some of that. But what's really cool, because you get a really evil person, Lord Mayor, with these proclamations. And it's kind of fun as you start your game, your group, and you get to read off what things are banned, outlawed, some very absurd things to ban. And the proclamations reading off these are just great. It really puts a really sinister tone to the group, and you can feel just the players just growling at this. The irritation starts to set in. A good irritation, not irritation at the game itself. But there's a lot of good background here for Cantargo, especially in the back of the book. There's a lot of great information, a lot of interest in lore, and a lot of that's in the player's guide. So it should generate some interest with your players and the GM alike. This was the first time I went and got the Syrinscape to use with my online group. I play map tools with a group using Skype, and I have tokens and macro commands, so just adding another element of intrigue, more of that role-playing format there, just to kind of put everyone into the game, to bring them out of reality. Syrinscape definitely helped. There's a lot of great music with it. Even it takes parts of the campaign, parts of the book, and throws in sounds that they would say in there. It really stands out in book 2, which I'm currently in. But as far as book 1, you get the protest. It's the beginning of the game. You're there to protest the Lord Mayor. And of course, a riot breaks out. I would suggest featuring a lot of the NPCs you plan to use. Have their faces kind of pop up here and there at the protest. Even very vague ones that don't show up till later. Maybe one of the people from Devil's Threads or Devil's Nursery. Maybe even people from book 2 or book 3. Just to kind of give it a little bit of a flair. So when later on they may be able to recognize a face or go, oh yeah, all the way from book 1, if you want to kind of create that nostalgia for your group. There's lots of cool sounds with this. There's even the protest battle where the chaos erupts. Screams, bloodshed. What other things we got here? Of course, you go around kicking puppies. Just lots of elements to kind of bring your players into it too. The immersion is there, especially with the help of Syrinscape. You got lemurs, not really knowing what kind of noises they make. They have some pretty interesting ones here, especially for grimples. I thought that was interesting. Especially when you kind of catch the players off guard when you play these sounds. And they're not expecting something like that. What really did it for me as far as the sounds go was... which is it? I gotta say the Tooth Fairy battle. A little bit of a spoiler there, but there are some Tooth Fairies in here. And just being able to get to hear their sounds. Especially in the text of the bestiary, where it talks about the explosion upon their death. That's just awesome. So there's lots of great sounds that you can play with in here. There's a Hell's Rebels theme music in here, which I think is pretty cool. Play a little bit of that for you. You can also sample a lot of the sound sets on Syrinscape's YouTube channel. So I think it's like a little bit over $10, maybe like $14 or so, to purchase the packages for each book, where you can sign up for a subscription and get access to all of it, I believe. Pretty cool. But anyway, back to the book here. Anything that really stands out to me. One of the central characters, Knox, that you meet in the beginning, can become a recurring villain in later books, but also towards the end of the book. So you can really flare up the encounter there with her. Exactly what is she? Some interesting elements to her that might be noticed by the party members. But the proclamations are awesome. The Cantargo rumors, people in the party that will generate some information, you can definitely use those. Imagine a lot of tavern talk. The only problem I really saw in this book is that you're going to run into the same mobs a lot, such as the Chalice Citizens group thugs, the Dotari guards, Asmodean redactors, monks or something, but you're going to run into kind of a bunch of those mooks, and I would almost expect you to kind of run into the same things because you're in a city, a lot of the same representations of government, of force, of thievery and such. A lot of central figures would be relevant and evident in the book. Factions that you would run into many times. So maybe to spice some of that up, maybe just to freshen up some variety, perhaps. Although there is some variety impacted in the book, I would say throw in some things like Thrune agents. I would definitely put some Hell Knights in there a little early. Armigers, Hell Knights in training. Get some of those in there. Their presence is heavily felt in Book 2. But it would help to kind of flesh out in Book 1. So seeing some of those, some Asmodeans, maybe some more Devils, things of that nature. A little more of an impact with Cheliax. If you're more of a fan of Hell's Vengeance, you can definitely throw some Reclamation in here. I actually kind of merged the two together as far as throwing elements of that into the book, just to kind of spice it up a little bit, kind of throw people off. But there's some great handouts. You meet a lot of NPCs. I was a little nervous going into this because with Iron Gods, I did introduce quite a lot of NPCs. A lot of them that came from each of the books. And the group wasn't really that interested with them. They experienced a lot of your princess is in another castle. Sorry. So I was a little worried that would be impacted upon this game as well. Fortunately, with the Rebellion, they have more of an opportunity to try and seize all their resources, trying to build their rebellion. So I think the Rebellion rules with the Rebellion sheet kind of helps sort of give the players more of an open mind to everything. Look for all possible avenues of interest and intrigue as far as trying to support and build their rebellion. So I think for groups that they like more like just go in there and kill things, I think you'll find more of a group that might be willing to kind of interact more with the NPCs, especially if the GM is willing to kind of flourish the backstory, which I always try to do. Voices definitely helps. If you're not good with voices, just work on it. It took me quite a bit to kind of get into it. What else can I talk about here? There's some interesting encounters in the back of the book that you can run as well. But yeah, back to Hell's Vengeance. I threw in quite a few of those in here. You can even drop some of the items if you want. A lot of it's Cheliax in nature in Hell's Vengeance, and since this is part of Cheliax, some of the theme is set here. You can definitely use some of those items. Of course, some of the evil people will kind of wield some of those same things, so perhaps those should be drops. I took the Ballista and put that below the Phantasmagorium with a lot of caltrops. I actually threw a few more people in there just to kind of get off of the Asmodean Redactors and the Chalice Citizen Thugs and the Dotari, just trying to add my own people in there. I even threw some people in from Wrath. particularly a Tieflin, Faxon. I put him in there because he had the Asmodean symbol on his chest. So I threw a lot of different elements in there just to kind of give it some flavor, just so you didn't have the same sort of blend in there. What else can I talk about? Well, there's a lot of reading in here. The one, I think, downside to this is, yeah, you get some of the same people, but also with the rebellion in mind, with those particular rules and some of those keywords to look for, you're going to have to kind of scour the adventure path and find the points where it talks about when to increase the notoriety, when certain things get increased with the rebellion sheet, benefits and boons, those things. It's unfortunate that a lot of that is just kind of hidden within the plain text. Sometimes you'll see it under the treasure spot there, but a lot of times you really have to look through it. I mean, you could read it a few times, but even then, if it doesn't catch your eye, you can easily overlook it. So there's a potential to mess up your rebellion sheet and even have to go back in later and make changes to it. But for the most part, the party should be keeping track of that, and really you're just keeping track of the notoriety and letting them know if certain chance encounters should take place. But the rebellion sheet actually helps set the tone for each week. So you have a little bit of a good pace in there as far as a timeline between different events. You can really establish that instead of just guessing. This took a couple days or a couple hours. And usually when you say those things, sometimes a party member might, well, this should have only taken an hour. So sometimes I get that quite a bit. I haven't heard that since I used the rebellion sheet, and kind of we're going on a week-by-week basis as far as certain events that take place. So there's a lot of side adventures here. Hopefully they're not... That should break up some of the linear, for those that kind of look at that. The rail's not firmly set. But they may get tired of just doing little side things, so definitely feel free to kind of add some elements to this or change some things to this. What else can I really say? If they want to be a Hell Knight, I know in Book 2 they give an option, where you can go with the only real good Hell Knight order. You can kind of sink that into some players' minds early from the beginning if they happen to flesh out their character and kind of strive or aim for that. That's always an option. What else can I really talk about? Knox. The one sort of potential total party killer, I would say, is Knox. It's a nice challenge, a very good challenge. But she hits pretty hard. Just to bring her out here for a moment, I will bring up her token and just kind of go with her damage rolls here, so you guys kind of get a understanding of Knox. Where are you? Come out, wherever you are. There we go. Knox. Regeneration's a bitch. But yeah, she's got pole fighting, steadfast pike, all those kinds of maneuvers. Being a phalanx fighter. So just some of her damage, especially when doing power attack. 14 damage. 19 damage, 22 damage. So, just taking that like a couple times, the rounds are going to go 3 or 4 rounds, and, she could easily do 30, 40 points of damage during that time. So, it could be pretty brutal. Especially when she can shorten up her thing or do step up as an immediate action, so she can really press the group, especially when you combine that with her dog, her hellhound, especially if they fight in conjunction with each other. The party would be hard pressed, especially if she were to summon a lemur. So you're looking at a tough fight there. But my party was able to overcome it. Of course, it was challenging, hard as hell. I did manage to kill one person with my light ballista that I introduced below the Phantasmagorium. Such an obnoxious place to put a light ballista. But nevertheless, they enjoyed it. They had fun with it. It was a great surprise. It was just there for storage, yeah. But it was fun to have 3 people on that thing manning it, so one person could load, fire, load. It was great. So, what else? I should probably bring up one other thing here. Is the party voted on what sort of things they wanted to bring in as far as rules when doing character creation. We kind of were a little flexible with that. I always like to vote to see a general interest that kind of ranges on a spectrum that everyone's kind of agreeable with. So we went with something new this time. Let me pull that up. I would recommend having like a Google's document, especially if you're in an online group. That way you can kind of manage your inventory and the rebellion sheet. Definitely helps if someone is there to kind of manage the rebellion sheet, some kind of player PC assistant, if you will. It kind of would help the DM with that, since it's a player resource, something that the players need to maintain themselves. Let's see here. I have it all written down here. So what I went with as far as Hell's Rebellion, Hell's Rebels character creation guidelines. 20 point buy, and there's no XP tracking. I've always done XP tracking. I loved calculating the XP. Of course, it's a burden, another waste of the GM's time. But finally, we went with the XP by storied events, and I highly recommend that, especially since they go out of their way to tell you when they should be 2nd, 3rd, and 4th level. I really recommend that. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. But I do max HP at 1st level, and then half of HP plus 1 for additional levels. So that's kind of the same as Pathfinder Society, I believe. 2 traits and 1 drawback are allowed. Of course, 1 campaign trait is a requirement. I do average start in GP. I actually do all classes, archetypes, and prestige allowed. All races allowed. I know you're going to scream, what about the drow, noble, or whatever. But I put on there monstrous races, plus 20 RP and up, are subject to a 15-point buy and GM approval. So you do have that as a sort of clause in there. So whatever your point buy is going to be, anything over plus 20 RP, I would lower it by 5. We do fractional base bonuses. That's something new this time. From Pathfinder Unchained on page 40. Also background skills from Pathfinder Unchained on page 46. Doing the wounds threshold from Pathfinder Unchained on page 136. There's a neat little macro that we kind of set up to kind of measure out the wounds threshold using the HP bar with these 4 barriers that kind of generate when they should be at a penalty due to their health. I think the wounds threshold is really, really interesting. It's not hard to keep track of, particularly for online gaming groups when you're using something like map tools where you have a token and you can see the HP bar displayed. Every time they take damage, that bar moves, and if it goes past the one color and into the next color, it's broken up by 4 segments, so each time you lose 1 segment, it goes down by -1, so it's kind of easy to keep track of. So they get that penalty on their AC, saves, and attack. So Really, really interesting. It applies to players and monsters. First time ever using that, and I gotta say I really like it. Just to kind of represent that whole wariness, the prolonged battle, to see the war of attrition, who's going to win out. That's a nice mechanic there. Detect magic usable only when holding target item. Some people felt that the spell, or I should say detect magic, was a little bit of a spamming thing there. So, and blood money is banned. That was a bit of an issue, I guess, before. But the one interesting thing to this that was not in the Pathfinder books, but a homebrew thing that was introduced and voted for and is now used in the game, is this thing called the strain injury variant. I would highly suggest this for all games. And what that is, I'll see if I can link this on the video here. But pretty much after each battle, all your hit points regenerate. You get all those restored to you. So that way you can go from one room to the next. And the whole cure light wounds and the need for this cleric to always be present in a group, that drives me absolutely insane. You don't have to have a cleric. There's all these other people that do casting, and the cleric's not the heal bot. It doesn't have to be when you have oracles and war priests and white necromancers and everything else in there. You don't have to have a cleric every time. Having a strain injury, you don't have to sort of manage the cure light wound stick and the potions and just that whole crap. So this is really nice. So you kind of take a quick rest and refit after each battle, and your wounds are restored to you. Where you catch your breath. Takes about a minute or so to get your act together. But any damage from critical hits, failed saving throws, or the final blow, which puts you below 0 hit points, they do not heal unless treated. So, such as using the heal skill, magical healing, those you could use to kind of replenish those. So you do have to kind of keep track of the critical hits, the failed saving throws, and the final blow as far as damage done to you there. That stuff you wouldn't be able to heal automatically. So, little bit of micromanaging there, but I think it definitely pays off. The lesser of two evils when having to manage cures and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's all I got. I would definitely do different voices if you are into that. I actually work on that all the time. That's one compliment I get from my players a lot. And just to kind of introduce a little bit of that, there's this great thing you get to do with Thrune here, where you get to make a speech before everybody. Ah, my adoring little chickadees, I am sorry to say I have not yet adapted to your quaint country ways, being accustomed as I am to the sophistication and learning of Ergorian. Nonetheless, I know I have heard your concerns. So you can try different voices if you want. My adoring little chickadees, I'm sorry to say I have not yet adapted to your quaint country ways, being accustomed as I am to the sophistication and learning of Ergorian. Nonetheless, know I have heard your concerns, and that I appreciate your valued feedback. You can do different variations. Whatever. I know with my Jade Regent, I was kind of spamming that one. Ah, my adoring little chickadees, I am sorry to say I have not yet adapted to your quaint country ways. So, you can do all kinds of things. You can use your voice. So, whatever. Oi! Whatever. You don't have to use voices, but it definitely helps when you're talking over Skype and everyone's not there. So, kind of bring everyone into it, that immersion. Use every type of tool you have. that's all I got. So I will continue to review Hell's Rebels in length and detail, maybe. Put those asleep. But I will eventually get back to the Iron Gods reviews and stuff. I fighting a lot of free time here to try and prep and do videos and everything. So, more videos are on the way to the bare minimum audience. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope I didn't bore you too much. Until next time.